Hi everybody, hi guys, how are you? Hey! Well, that's just Jess saying hi too. She always laughs at me when I do these videos, but hey, that's cool. We're laughing here, so that's all good. Hope you guys are all having a nice holiday break as well. This weather has just been amazing. So nice that we're able to get outside and enjoy the sunshine, and hopefully lots of bike rides and running around and bouncing on the tramp or splashing around under the hose or in a swimming pool, or doing whatever it is that you can do outside while staying in that wonderful little family bubble that you all will be in. Right, let's carry on with Gangsta Granny. So remember last time we left off, they'd made it inside to where the crown jewels were, and they came across the Queen who was sitting there. So we're now up to chapter 27, an audience with the Queen. "What on earth are you doing here?" asked Ben. What on earth are you doing here, Your Majesty?" "I like to come here when I can't sleep," replied the Queen. She spoke in that instantly familiar posh voice of hers. Ben and Granny were surprised to see she was wearing a nightgown and little furry corgi slippers. She was also wearing the coronation crown on her head. It was the most magnificent of all the crown jewels. The Archbishop of Canterbury placed it on her head when she was crowned Queen in 1953. The crown, which dates back to 1661, is made of gold encrusted with diamonds, rubies, pearls, emeralds and sapphires. It was an impressive look, even for the Queen. "I come here to think," the Queen went on. "I got my chauffeur to bring me over from Buckingham Palace in the Bentley. I have my Christmas address to the nation in a few weeks, and I need to think carefully about what I want to say. One always finds it easier to think with one's crown on. The question is, what on earth are you two doing here?" And there she is there, looking very regal in her crown. Ben and Granny looked at each other ashamed. Being told off was bad enough at the best of times, but being told off by the Queen was on a whole other level of being told offness, as this simple graph demonstrates. And I know how good we are in our class at doing graphs. So as you can see, there is the highest amount of being told offness here by the Queen. And interestingly, parents here are the lowest. And why do the pair of you two smell like poo-poo?" "Well," pushed Her Majesty, "I am waiting." "I am solely to blame, Your Majesty," said Granny, bowing her head. "No, she's not," said Ben. "It was me who said we should steal the crown jewels. I talked her into it." "That's true," said Granny, "but it's not what I meant. I started this whole thing when I pretended to be an international jewel thief." "What?" exclaimed Ben. "Pardon," said the Queen. "One is very terribly confused. My grandson hated staying with me on Friday night," said Granny. "I heard him one night calling his parents and complaining about how boring I was." "But Granny, I don't think you are any more," protested Ben. "Oh, it's all right, Ben. I know things have changed since then, and in truth I was boring. I just liked to eat cabbage and play Scrabble, and I knew deep down that you hated those things, so I made up stories from the books I read to entertain you. I told you I was an infamous jewel thief called the Black Cat." "But what about those diamonds you showed me?" said Ben, feeling shocked and angry that he'd been deceived. "All worthless, dear," replied Granny. "Made of glass. I found them in an old ice cream tub at the local charity shop." Ben stared at her. He couldn't believe it. The whole thing, the whole incredible story was made up. "I can't believe you lied to me," he said. I mean," said Granny, faltering. Ben turned to glare at her. "You're not my Gangsta Granny after all," he said. Then there was a deafening silence in Jewel House, followed by a rather loud and rather posh cough. Ahem, said an imperious voice. Up to chapter 28 now. Hung, drawn and quartered. "I'm terribly sorry to interrupt," said the Queen in her clipped tones, "but might we get back to the important matter at hand? I still don't understand why the two of you are here in the Tower of London in the middle of the night, smelling of poo-poo and attempting to steal my jewels." "Well, once I had started, the lie grew and grew, Your Majesty," continued Granny, avoiding Ben's eyes. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I just got carried away, I suppose. It was so nice to spend that extra time with my grandson, to have fun with him. It reminded me of when I used to read him bedtime stories. That was in the days when he didn't find me boring." Ben fidgeted. He was starting to feel guilty too. Ben had lied to him, and that was horrible, but she'd only done it because she was upset that what he thought. But she'd only done it because she was upset that he thought she was dull. "I had fun too," he whispered. Granny smiled at him. "I'm glad, little Benny. I'm so sorry. I really—" "Ahem," interrupted the Queen. Oh, yes, said Granny. "Well, before I knew it, things had snowballed, and we were planning to take on the most daring robbery of all time. We climbed up the sewage pipe, by the way. We don't usually smell like this, Your Majesty." "Oh, I should hope not." "Pooh-wee!" Ben was feeling really guilty now. Even if Granny had never been an international jewel thief, she certainly wasn't boring. She had helped plan this robbery with him, and now here they were in the Tower of London at midnight talking to the Queen. "I have to do something to help her," Ben realised. "The robbery was my idea, Your Majesty," he said. "I am so sorry." "Please let my grandson go," interjected Granny. "I don't want his young life ruined. Please, I beg you. We were going to return the crown jewels tomorrow night. I promise." "Ah, a likely story," murmured the Queen. "It's true," exclaimed Ben. "Please, do what you want with me, Your Majesty," continued Granny. "Have me locked up here in the tower forever if you like, but I beg you, let the boy go." The Queen looked lost in thought. "I really don't know what to do," said the Queen eventually. "I am touched by your story, and as you know, I too am a grandmother, and my grandchildren find me dull sometimes." "Really?" said Ben. "But you are the Queen." "I know," the Queen chuckled. Ben was stunned. He had never seen the Queen laugh before. She was usually so serious and never cracked a smile when giving her speech on TV at Christmas or opening Parliament, or even watching comedians at the Royal Variety Show. "But to them, I'm just their boring old granny," she continued. "They forget that I was young once, and that they too will be old one day," added Granny, with a meaningful look at Ben. "Exactly, my dear," agreed the Queen. "I think the younger generation need to have a bit more time for the elderly." "I'm sorry, Your Majesty," said Ben. "If I hadn't been so selfish and moaned about old people being boring, none of this would ever have happened." There was an uncomfortable silence. Granny rummaged in her handbag and offered the Queen a bag of sweets. "Murray mints, Your Majesty?" "Oh, yes, please," said the Queen. She unwrapped it and popped it in her mouth. "Gosh, I haven't had one of these in years." "They're my favourite," said Granny. And there they are there, two of them, enjoying their mints. "And they last so long," added the Queen as she sucked it before composing herself again. "Do you know what happened to the last man who attempted to steal the crown jewels?" inquired the Queen. "Was he hung, drawn and quartered?" asked Ben excitedly. "Believe it or not, he was pardoned," said the Queen with a wry smile. "Pardoned, Your Majesty," said Granny. In 1671, an Irishman by the name of Colonel Blood tried to steal them, but was caught by the guards as he tried to escape. He hid this very crown I am wearing now under his cloak and dropped it on the ground just outside. King Charles II was so amused by Colonel Blood's daring attempt that he set him free. "Oh, I must Google him," said Ben. "I don't know what Googling is," said Granny. "Nor me," chuckled the Queen. "So, in royal tradition, that's what I am going to do. Pardon you both." "Oh, thank you, Your Majesty," said Granny, kissing her hand. Ben fell to his knees. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Your Majesty." "Yes, yes, don't grovel," said the Queen haughtily. "I cannot abide grovelling. I have met far too many grovellers during my reign." "I am so sorry, Your Majestical Royal Majesty," said Granny. "That's exactly what I mean. You're grovelling now," replied the Queen. Ben and Granny looked at each other in fear. It was hard not to speak to Her Majesty without grovelling at least a little bit. "Now, jolly along quickly, please," said the Queen, "before this whole place is overrun with guards. And don't forget to watch me on the telly on Christmas Day." We'll leave it there. And I will say see you later at the stage. Have a wonderful weekend in your little bubbles. I hope that you're all enjoying this time. Again, big shout out, big appreciation to people, those of you who have parents or family members who are out working in our hospitals and our supermarkets, doing other things that are keeping everything going for us. And be safe, be kind to each other, and I'll talk to you next week. See ya.